Hello, everybody, and welcome to Commodity Culture, where our goal is to make you a better investor in the commodities sector. My name is Jesse Day. Before we dive in, standard disclaimer, nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is a director and business development of PureWave Hydrogen, a Colorado-based company dedicated to the discovery and development of natural hydrogen resources across North America. It's Bruce Nurse. Great to have you on the show.
Great to be with you, Jesse. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. I'm excited to dive into hydrogen. I want to start with the commodity itself because this is a commodity that is not often discussed. Let's start with an overview for those who are unfamiliar. What is hydrogen? What are its main use cases?
Right. As we all know from science class in high school or middle school, wherever, hydrogen is the most abundant element in our universe. It has been around for centuries and centuries, really created what we know as Earth, our universe. So hydrogen is there. We know it's subsurface. It's geologic hydrogen, white hydrogen, however you want to label it. So it's a commodity that is a product from Mother Nature. It's created from the mingling of iron-rich rock, water, heat, pressure that creates the hydrogen. Most of the hydrogen today seeps through the fractures and cracks and into the atmosphere. It is clean. There's no CO2. It's one of the most friendly gases there is. So we're looking for geologic hydrogen here in North America, mainly the US, but it is a commodity that could be tremendous for our energy needs in the future. And as we know, and I'm going to kind of state this, and it's hard to wrap your mind around this, but Jeffrey Ellis of the United States Geological Survey, who happens to be here in Denver, Colorado, is a true proponent of geologic hydrogen, natural hydrogen. And he has stated or quoted stating that there is, and again, it's difficult to get your mind around this, but 5 trillion metric tons of hydrogen below our feet. If we are able to tap 1%, only 1% of that source, that energy, hydrogen, we could have an energy source that could handle our energy needs for hundreds and hundreds of years. The question is, can we find it in a reserve, a resource that we can produce commercially viable hydrogen? And that's where the exploration play comes into play. Now, hydrogen today is a variety of rainbows, if you like. And I'll go into some of the uses here in a moment. But hydrogen is typically what I like to say manufactured hydrogen. So that is your rainbow colors: green, blue, dark gray, black. Dark black or gray is fossil fuels, coal or oil. Green hydrogen is your renewables, right? It's solar, it's wind, it's using an energy source through an electrolyzer that creates energy, hydrogen. That hydrogen is sold into the marketplace. You've got blue hydrogen. Again, it's a fossil fuel natural gas. And we know natural gas here in the US and Canada is an abundant gas that is available. But again, it's manufactured. So you're using an energy source, natural gas, to make energy, hydrogen, through a processing facility. Expensive, and you're utilizing a lot of tax credits from the U.S. government. The problem with natural gas, in addition to coal or oil, which is your gray, your dark, your black hydrogen, again, using it through a processing facility, making hydrogen, again, very expensive, tremendous amount of CO2 associated. So that is very pollutive energy. So you've got to capture that CO2 and sequester that down deep into the ground. So there are tax credits the U.S. is providing. It is kind of the main source of hydrogen today. We have not globally discovered a reserve of natural hydrogen to produce from. There is an area in Africa, Mali, Africa, really the first area that has created hydrogen, geologic natural hydrogen from subsurface as an energy source. So that is your first real area. Now, there are companies throughout the globe that are searching for this, exploring for it, whether it's in Europe, Albania, France, Spain, Australia, and of course here in North America, whether it's Canada or the US. And we're out there exploring for it. And that's what PureWave Hydrogen does. A lot of the sources or uses today is really in the industrial phase. So it's an industrial facility, whether it's an ammonia production facility, whether it's a refinery, petroleum refinery facility, using hydrogen as an energy source. Though, again, keep in mind, they may be using natural gas, coal, or oil to create that hydrogen, using that hydrogen as an energy source going forward. But what we see today is new technology utilizing hydrogen, and that is the hydrogen fuel cell. And the fuel cell is becoming kind of interesting in the fact that you've got BMW, Toyota, and other major companies looking at a hydrogen fuel cell to recharge batteries. And so that's the technology coming forward. Going forward here with the need for tremendous energy, here in the US, we see everything going digital. They're talking about everything going electric. Our grid cannot provide the energy source for everything going electric, let alone the new technology that we're seeing. Artificial intelligence, data centers. A tremendous amount of energy is needed for AI and data centers. Here in the US, you have vast number of major warehouses, 1 million square feet of warehouses with computers in those computer devices that run 24/7. They require a tremendous amount of energy. So the question is, where are we going to get our energy from? Now, I'm a believer in oil and gas. I've been involved in oil and gas for many, many years. That is an energy source that we can use down into the future. But we're going to need other forms of energy, whether it's solar, whether it's wind. We feel geologic hydrogen could be that energy source into the future.
Fantastic breakdown. I wonder if you could shed some light as well on the supply demand dynamics of the hydrogen market. You mentioned Mali could have some hydrogen. Are there any other areas of the world where there is currently exploration underway or hydrogen extraction taking place? What does the supply demand dynamics look like at present on a global scale?
Yeah, we know the demand for an energy source. If we're looking at the US, we know there's a lot of companies that we could go to for offtake arrangements for hydrogen, geologic natural hydrogen. The question is, how do we find that hydrogen? So it's a science project, if you like. We have brought within PureWave Hydrogen academic, oil and gas experience, bringing them together, looking at the science of finding a reserve of hydrogen. So today, globally, outside of Mali, Africa, there is no true extraction of hydrogen. Now, there's companies in Australia, in Europe, and other areas that are exploring for it, that have actually drilled and identified good hydrogen shows. But to date, there's no production coming out of these resources at the moment.
Very interesting. How is hydrogen generally extracted, and what makes a hydrogen deposit economically feasible? You mentioned there's a massive amount of it. If you could only tap into 1%, that would make a huge impact. But how do you know whether a deposit is economically feasible?
Yeah, and again, we go back to oil and gas methods. We're utilizing oil and gas methods with new technology, and new technology being proprietary software to scrape data sets here in the US. There's a tremendous amount of data from old oil and gas wells. Here in the US, there's been thousands and thousands of wells drilled over many, many years. All that data is collected. The question is, how do you get into that data? How do you build a software system to put in your inputs, your criteria to identify what we're looking for? Fortunately for us, we have a proprietary software to do that. And then we apply new technology. Similar to oil and gas exploration, they're using aeromagnetic surveys, they're using magnetic surveys, they're doing ground surveys, water surveys, things like that. We're applying all that technology or all that exploration method to identify what we're looking for. This gas that's subsurface. We're looking underneath the sedimentary basin where you typically find oil and gas. We're going down to the hard rock, down to the granite, where that granite, that hard rock, that iron rich rock mingles with water, heat, pressure to create hydrogen. What we look for is what's the source of that rock? What's the migration of the water? How old is that water? What's the heat, the temperature of that water? A lot of that is unknown at this time, but we're using oil and gas methods to explore for natural hydrogen. We will eventually drill, as we drill for oil and gas, vertical wells down deep into the granite, looking for that hydrogen. And again, hopefully, we can produce naturally occurring hydrogen, have a commercially viable source to sell into the market. But we're applying oil and gas methods. And that's why we built PureWave Hydrogen with both the academic understanding, PhDs from University of Wyoming, University of California, Davis, University of Oxford, alongside oil and gas experts that have been in oil and gas for many, many years, and just applying that to our understanding of what we're looking for.
And you're specifically involved with white hydrogen. You gave us a bit of a primer when it came to the color spectrum. Going into the darker colors was the coal, natural gas being blue, and oil being into the darker range. Could you maybe just shed some more light on what exactly white hydrogen is and what differentiates it from other varieties?
Yeah, again, what they've done is they've categorized hydrogen really through rainbow colors. So, as I mentioned, green is that renewable source. That is the solar, the wind. You're using that energy source through a technology called electrolyzer to create an energy, which is hydrogen. You're using processing facilities, again, using coal, oil, natural gas through that facility to create hydrogen. Again, it's very pollutive. There's a lot of CO2. And then we get into white hydrogen. So white hydrogen is just what we see subsurface, geologic, natural hydrogen. It's just got that white label on it as that category.
Well, let's shift to PureWave Hydrogen and starting with an overview of the company for those who are hearing about it for the first time.
Sure. Appreciate that. Yeah, PureWave Hydrogen was set up here in Denver, Colorado. We got it going about a year and a half ago. Myself and Robert Price, who's the CEO, came together. I've been involved in the energy transition movement, took a company that was EV for the waterways. It had a fully electric outboard for boating, and I took that company to NASDAQ on a direct IPO. Robert Price has been involved in oil and gas as I have, but he was involved in a if you like, manufactured hydrogen. So it was down in New Mexico using natural gas through the processing facility to create hydrogen, and then using hydrogen as that energy source to run the processing facility. He did sell some of the hydrogen into the marketplace. So we came together looking for naturally occurring hydrogen. We have a strong contact and a collaborator, a partner of ours, Chris Ballantyne, who is an expert. He's out of the University of Oxford, who's an expert in hydrogen, geologic white hydrogen, if you like. And so we collaborated with him. We built a strong team of advisors, of academic experts, oil and gas experts, put this into PureWave Hydrogen, which was a private company here in Colorado. We did a merger with a publicly traded vehicle called Longhorn Exploration that trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the Venture Exchange. And we just completed our merge about a month and a half ago, where we made the name change, the symbol change to PureWave Hydrogen. Our symbol is PWH, PureWave Hydrogen, trading on the Toronto Venture. So we've come together exploring for geologic white hydrogen, natural hydrogen, if you want to label it that way. Our first project is in Kansas. It's along the mid-continent rift. It's a very interesting source rock with water and heat that we like. But what we've identified there, again, using our software, going through the data sources that are available, whether it's the USGS, whether it's the state-run data sources that collect all the data from oil and gas wells. And there was hydrogen shows, hydrogen occurrences in old oil and gas wells. They didn't produce any oil, didn't find any oil, but they did record hydrogen. Now, that is not the case on all wells throughout the United States. Most of the oil and gas companies going back many, many years found this gas, hydrogen, really didn't know what to do with it. And so they didn't record any of that. But what we do through our data source and our software is we have criteria that helps us identify what we're looking for. And then we start digging deep into that information, looking at the logs, seismic lines, things like that help us identify where we want to go and acquire acreage. Again, I go back to oil and gas. Similar to oil and gas, you're exploring and you're looking for oil, gas, hydrogen. You're going out and you're leasing up acreage from the farmers or the landowners. And that's what we've done in Kansas. We like Kansas for many reasons. Again, as I mentioned, there's good hydrogen shows in these oil and gas wells. But there's a company called Coloma. Coloma is a private company here in Denver, Colorado. But they've raised $350 million to date. Post-valuation on their previous financing last February was over $800 million. But they got major investors, Bill Gates, Breakthrough Ventures, which is Bill Gates' venture capital arm, United Airlines, Mitsubishi, amongst a number of other heavyweight investors. So they're all doing the same thing we are, looking at and exploring for geologic hydrogen. There's another company called Hytera. Hytera trades on the Australian exchange. They did a deal with Fortescue. Fortescue bought 40% of the company, I believe. And they're, again, exploring, like we are, for geologic white hydrogen. That's really the start of the company. Now, what we've done, we've kind of expanded that. Looking here in the U.S., our focus is the U.S., not there are opportunities in Canada, there's opportunities overseas that we're looking at, but we're in our backyard. So we're going to focus here in the US. And we're really exploring other areas outside of Kansas that have shown some good indication of natural white hydrogen. And so we'll continue that exploration work.
Well, walk us through the details of what you've accomplished so far at the Lily Rock project in Kansas, what the plans are moving forward. You mentioned some jurisdictions outside of Kansas as well, some places around the world. Maybe if you could also give us some details on where you're looking and what your plans are moving forward there as well.
Yeah. We've applied a fair amount of technical work to our Lily Rock project. We've acquired a bunch of acreage there. We had our geophysicists come in and do aeromag studies, do a magnetic survey on the area, identifying hydrogen from subsurface. We've looked at the rock. We've looked at the well logs. We're looking at the migration of water. We're sampling the water. How old is that water? Is there hydrogen within that water? So we're doing all our exploration, all our geological work before we commence drilling. Now, we'd like to think we're going to drill sometime in this new year, 2025. There is a company that's planning on a large drilling program currently, and they're in around our acreage. So that's going to give us a lot of intel to really understand what we may have there. Now, what we've done in addition to this is we've partnered with the University of Wyoming and their hydrogen department with new technology. In our belief, technology is what you need to create a seal containing the hydrogen subsurface. So this is a patent pending technology out of the University of Wyoming that we have partnered with to maybe bring to the Lily Rock we'll see, a utilizing this technology that puts a seal, if you like, contains the hydrogen subsurface that allows us to produce from. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, and I defer to the science. We've got PhDs, we've got experts in geology. It's going to take some type of new technology that's going to put some type of containment seal on it. And the fact that we've partnered on this new technology, I think, gives us kind of a step ahead of some of the exploration companies out there.
Well, you've given some hints to the expertise of the team. Give us some more details there on the team members behind PureWave Hydrogen, maybe starting with yourself and how you came to be a part of the company.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I've known Robert for a while. Robert Price here in Denver. I've been involved in the public markets, both in Canada and the U.S. for many, many years. I came out of Vancouver as a broker, got involved in a number of oil and gas deals, both conventional and unconventional. Unconventional being coal bed methane, shale gas. We've done some deals down in Colombia, but I got involved in a energy transition company about 7 years now. I took that to NASDAQ on a direct IPO, but that got me involved in that whole energy transition movement here in the United States, more on the EV side. I got involved as a shareholder and I raised a bunch of money for a company out of the UK. And as I mentioned earlier, this company is an EV. It's in the urban delivery truck business. So it's the FedEx, the UPS, Amazon vehicles that you see throughout Europe delivering packages. Now they're looking at batteries to run the vehicles. Well, you need an energy source to recharge that battery because it's all about last mile. These trucks are on the road for 8 to 12 hours and you can't stop to recharge that battery. So this company went out and used a hydrogen fuel cell to recharge that battery. So it's a unique business using hydrogen. And that got us involved alongside my conversations with Robert Price. We came together understanding geologic hydrogen and searching for that because it's a tremendous savings if we can produce geologic hydrogen versus manufactured hydrogen. And then we brought in Kat Campbell. Kat's been part of the company from day one. Her expertise in oil and gas goes back 15, 20 years. She's been involved in oil and gas throughout the Rocky Mountain region, but she has an expertise in these new renewable energy sources like hydrogen, helium, and others. We brought on Ryan, who's a PhD out of the University of Wyoming. Again, oil and gas background. We've got a few advisors, Estella Ekwana, who is the Dean of Life Sciences at University of California, Davis. She's a geophysicist, and a few other people that we're associated with. And just bringing this expertise to the company to search for hydrogen.
Well, I'll end by opening the floor to you. Is there anything we haven't yet discussed, anything you want to emphasize when it comes to PureWave Hydrogen that you think potential shareholders should be aware of?
Yeah, listen, we trade on the Toronto Venture under the symbol PWH. We're trading about, I think we're under 10 million Canadian market cap. So I think we're undervalued in my opinion, but you hear that all the time. I think we're just, the whole natural hydrogen, geologic hydrogen is starting to gain a lot of steam. You've got 3 months ago, I believe, something like that, the Senator Manchin of the U.S. Senate, he held a Senate committee hearing on natural geologic hydrogen, brought in experts from the USGS, the Department of Energy, and of course private companies looking at this as an energy source. The demands that we see here in the US, and I know in Europe as well, you've got a tremendous amount of demand for energy. But what we're seeing today is this new technology, AI, the data centers. It's going to require a tremendous amount of energy. Our grid here in the US cannot handle that need, let alone us trying to move to electric and everything going electric, whether it's your vehicles, your lawnmower, whatever it may be. We're digitalizing our lives with everything, and that requires energy, power. Our grid here in the US will not be able to sustain that. So we need to find new energy sources. And that's why we're looking at geologic hydrogen. It could be the energy of the future for the US and beyond.
Fantastic. Well, I'll put a link in the description below to PureWave Hydrogen's website, as well as social media profile for people who want to follow along with the company. Thank you so much, Bruce, for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge with the audience.
Jesse, thanks for having us. Again, Happy New Year to everyone.
You too. Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.